The Attic, by Rafef. It was a long time since Dave and his dad had gone into Dave's grandma's attic. The last time Dave went up there he was young enough to believe the lies his older brother told him, like there was a ghost living in his grandma's attic. That one really scared him. He didn't dare go in her attic for years after that. But now he'd long grown out of those silly fears. He was now old enough to help his dad with groceries. And that meant it was time to go to Grandma's house, which meant going to the attic again. Climbing up the stairs, Dave found piles of old things, some of which he guessed would be now worth millions, but of course he had no intention to sell one of his grandma's prized possessions. His eyes wandered around the musty and dust-filled attic and locked on an old box, the one that he'd first thought was treasure chest. He'd never actually opened it. So his curious mind told him to open it, so he did. When he opened it, he found the remnants of his grandmother's childhood. A gold ring encrusted with assorted diamonds and jewels that her dad had given to her. He was surprised that it still held its glimmer, a yellowed picture of the family and a dusty, red ball that she probably played with as a child. From the top of the stairs he heard the family laughing and eating. Oh gosh, I'm missing out, I should go join them, Dave thought. He slid down the banister and tried to hop off suavely, but tripped on his shoelace and bumped his head on the dining table. Dave, are you okay? His mother exclaimed. Yeah, I'm fine, Dave said as if he meant to fall the whole way along. Oh phew, I thought you were hurt, his mother said, now much more relieved that her son was not hurt. Hey Grandma, I found a chest full of stuff in the attic, can you explain what it is? Dave questioned. His grandma said, yes, I sure can, that was my special box. I would put things that were special to me in it. It was so full that I needed 6 of those chests to hold all my special items. His grandma sighed, took a long deep breath and continued. But alas, this is where the bad part begins. This is where we moved to Indiana, where we live now. There was not enough room in our cramped car for lots of things, especially my special chests. I had to toss them. Then special chests became a special chest. So you are saying that all those things that were important to you are in some California landfill? Dave screamed. Calm down, Dave, calm down. Yes, I did throw those important things in the trash, but if I didn't, then I would not have met your grandpa and gave birth to your mother. Without her, you wouldn't have been born. Think about that. While you are at it, think about this. At least we have one, Grandma said. Dave was calmer and said, okay. Later that day, they had a delicious dinner and a chocolate mousse as dessert. When it started getting dark and Dave knew it was time to go home. He didn't want to go, but he knew he had to. The next day Dave thought about making a special chest for himself, thinking, that would be fun, and we aren't gonna move soon, and if we do, our car is big enough. So he did. He started by finding a suitable chest. He went to the village store as it had some vintage items. There he found 2 beautiful cedar chests with brass locks. He immediately bought the 2, then he started with the special things. First he looked in the basement and found his childhood remains, a baby walker that was colorful but now faded, old, cracked building blocks of assorted shapes and sizes, and much more. Dave ran back the stairs from the basement, carefully picked up one of the chests and much more tenderly walked down the stairs. At the bottom he mindfully piled the items into the chest. Then he walked back up the stairs and put the chest in a closet. Then gathered things from his room that were important to him, some foreign currency from China, Europe, India, and much more, a gold necklace encrusted in ruby handed due to Dave by his great-great-great-grandfather, and a vintage recorder. He put all these items into his other chest and put that in the closet too, then locked it again. The next day Dave went to school. He did the usual, putting his textbooks and clothing in his locker, then going to his class. At recess, Dave noticed that Bill, who usually bullied him, was looking down and no one was playing with him. Being a kind person, Dave went over and asked Bill if he needed any help. Bill said, "Go away." Without the courage to stand up to his former bully, Dave walked away and looking for someone else to play with. Not walking too far, he heard Bill shout behind, "Hey, come back." Dave returned to Bill. Bill explained, "Actually, I am wondering if I don't have to punch people to get money, because when adults know I do such a thing to get my dough, they don't let me spend it. For example, I went to the village shop the other day and to try to get a video game console. The store owner, being one of the teachers at our school, knew how I got my money. Instead of getting a video game console, I got to send to my parent, If I have a better way to earn money, I can use it the way I want." Dave was shocked. He never imagined these thoughtful words could come out of Bill's mouth. Being afraid of what Bill had done to him in the past, Dave almost turned around and walked away. But he smashed his fearful thoughts, thinking, if I don't let him change, he will never change. He looked into Bill's eyes with a big grin and asked, "How can I help?" Then, like a contagious disease, Bill grinned right back and exclaimed, "Let's do this." The bell rang and they walked together, hand in hand, into the school.
Friend or Foe by Kathy Casteel. Friend or foe? Exactly how does a home, once it turns back into a house, stay strong enough to still be standing long enough for a tree to grow through its ceiling? Is it happy for the tree's company? Is the tree pulling it down? Or holding it up? Is the cabin pulling the tree down? You would think it would be enough that those kids came wandering through here in the middle of the night and fell through my floor. What were they thinking, wandering around in here with nothing but moonlight to guide them? Thank goodness it was a full moon, or who knows what might have happened. House grumbled. Now I have a hole in my floor and... Squirrel, can you please stop storing your nuts and seeds in my floorboards? Why are you trying to fill it with nuts? The squirrel startled at the harsh voice and then ran back into a nearby tree to gather more. The house sighed, creaking as it did so. Foe, definitely foe. Not all of the nuts sprouted, but 3 or 4 did. Some flower seeds too. I have a dang bouquet sprouting from my bottom, the house complained. Well, at least something looks nice around here. Guess I shouldn't complain. Hello down there, he says from the rafters. Are you friend or foe? He chuckled to himself. The house quivered when a childlike voice answered. I think I'm a friend, at least. I want to be a friend. But it gets mighty dark in here. Sometimes I'm afraid and I get lonely. Hey little fella, no reason to be afraid, the house replied. See that window over there, right behind you? Well, it used to be a window. Now it's more of a broken pane of dirty glass. But I'm getting off track. A sunbeam comes to visit nearly every day, more through the break than the grimy pane. But see the little dust devils swirling. It almost lands right on you. I think if you stretch a little bit you could reach it. Wow, I can't quite reach, relied the little hickory sprout. Not a problem for us, came a chorus of boastful voices. See how we stretch our long, slender stems into the swirling light. Some might even call us graceful the way we sway. The sunlight is so warm too. It is a tad cold here with the wind sweeping through that hole by the front door, house. Oh, and we're Daisy. Some would say we're Wild Daisy, the boast continued. The voice seemed to come from a bunch of spindly white blossoms sitting just south of Sprout. Nice to meet you, Daisy, grumbled House. Try not to crack my floorboards any more than you already have. A couple years went by and Daisy didn't seem to grow much. They went away for quite a while when it got cold, but had always come back when the sun shone through the window again and the floorboards began to warm. Then one year they just didn't come back. Do you suppose they moved? Hickory, who now preferred to be called Hick, asked House. I suppose they did, House replied. Or maybe they went to live with that young lady who was wandering around here last summer. Remember, she plucked them off right in the middle of their stems and took them with her when she was done exploring. Maybe they stayed. Well, I know there is something kind of slimy down there now and something that tickles, came Hick's reply. But they are kind of cool looking too, don't talk much, maybe they sleep a lot. 2 of my branches are leaning out the window now. There really isn't much light in here anymore, just that little bit of sun up high. That's my roof you are talking about, boy, House huffed. Shingles blew off last fall and now the rain has started dripping through, making the hole bigger and bigger. Gives me a headache just thinking about it. Don't call me a boy, came the angry answer. I'm almost tall enough to touch that hole. I'm not a baby anymore. I'm growing more every day and I'm going places, and up through there is my first stop. Someday I'll bust right through that hole. Friend or foe, Hick, friend or foe, House commented resignedly. House was getting really old now, very tattered and worn. Slats had fallen off his sides and someone had stolen his door. The frame no longer sat firm and straight. In fact, House really didn't think he would see old Harvey again. His caretaker had been gone many seasons now. When old Harvey had been here, things might have been dusty, but there was no lack of laughter in House, who was then known as home. He remembered old Harvey playing the banjo but really missed the fiddle. Turkey in the Straw had been Home's favorite. But Salty Dog and the Wabash Cannonball had been really good too. Home loved when the fiddle made the train whistle sound. The grandchildren had giggled and jumped on the old iron bed. when they visited, making it squeak so much that they giggled some more. A couple of mouse families live there now. House was not sure if they were building a home or just tearing things apart. He didn't ever ask, because he really didn't want to know. "Hey, why so quiet?" a new voice asked. "Who's that?" asked Hick. "House, something is tickling my trunk again." "Calm down. Now that you think you're grown, you shouldn't be upset by a little tickling." "I'm Fern," came a very feminine voice. "I love it here in the shade of your branches, Mr. Hick. My other friends love it too, but they don't talk much. Maury, say hello." "I don't have time to talk." A husky voice came that was also obviously female. "I'm busy eating, these roots are delicious." "Stop that," Hick shouted. "I am not for eating." House, kick them out. "You know I can't stop anyone from living here." "Hick, just like you stretch your branches to the roof and window. These little ladies thrive in the darkness of that shade." "But, Maury, if you could eat on the floor instead of on Hick, it would be much appreciated. My floors are made of pine, surely you would like that better." No, pine tastes like." "Well, it doesn't taste good. I'm fine right here." "Well, they are small and wrinkly." "Hick, perhaps they won't stay long." "Easy for you to say, House. They aren't tearing you to pieces." Hick replies dramatically. House replies, "May I remind you all where you live?" Hick looks around questioningly, but Fern nods or frowns. "Yeah, Hick, we live in house, and none of us even asked. In fact, I'm not even sure how I got here." A faint chittering of squirrels was the closest thing to a reply any of them got. Still, the years passed. House was quite old and bent now. Sir Hickory, for he never grew out of the dramatic, was quite the opposite. He had grown tall and strong, if a bit twisted. "House," he announced, "you should look at the view from up here." "I am the view from up there," grumbled House. "Just look down." No, House, I mean up here, look up." House turned his gaze up, leaves. Leaned a bit to the north, leaves and blue. He hadn't seen blue in a while. Just then a harsh wind blew through from the south. House heard a large crack and his top shifted significantly. Was he falling? "Sir Hickory, help," he shouted. "I'm falling." House swayed precariously. "Hold on," Sir Hickory rumbled, steadying House and resting his rafters in his limbs. "Friend, House, always your friend." The King's Task, by David Hudson. Once upon a time there was a very powerful warlock who held power over all the land. The warlock was so powerful that he was nearly impossible to kill. Some say that he even had the power to resurrect himself should he ever fall. The warlock ruled over the people with a cruel hand for decades until a new king inherited the rightful throne. The king, who was brave and wise, put together a team of the best knights, soldiers, and wizards and finally defeated the evil warlock. Every year on the anniversary of the warlock's demise, the people of the kingdom would gather in homes and taverns to remember the victory and tell stories of battles and encounters with the warlock. Since there was fear of the warlock's resurrection, the whereabouts of his body had become legend. The tradition continued for 20 years. Then one evening on the anniversary of the warlock's death, townsfolk were celebrating in one of the more popular taverns. One man, a traveler, sat at the bar and overheard another man telling his heroic story about how he got rid of the warlock's ashes. The other man was a boatman. He was surrounded by other patrons as he gave details about how he scattered the warlock's ashes far out to sea. The tavern's patrons began to honor and revere the boatman as a hero. The traveler chimes in. "Liar, there is no truth to your story, gentlemen. I am the one who disposed of the warlock's ashes." The boatman protests. "You dare call me a liar when it was the king himself who gave me this task." "I do call you a liar, sir, for the king personally assigned me to bury the ashes of the warlock far in the east. I buried him just before the coast of the far side ocean." The two men continued arguing and giving specific details to add to their story's credibility. The boatman spoke of his journey as he sailed for days and nights and through severe sea storms while carrying out the task. In turn, the traveler gave details of his weeks-long journey on horseback and encounters with wild beasts as he traveled. Both men's stories sounded believable as they both claimed that a king's guard accompanied them on their respective journeys to ensure that the task was completed as the king wished. It was not before long that the men went outside to duel to the death over the matter. However, before swords were drawn, the barkeep made a suggestion. "If you both say the king can vouch for your candor, why not bring the matter to him instead of letting the truth die with the swing of a sword?" The barkeep said. Both men swore on their lives that the king tasked them with the disposition of the warlock's ashes. They agreed that whomever the king sides with the other man must be put to death. The two men stood in front of the king and made their plea, and both demanded that the other be put to death for lying on their honor. "You are both correct," the king stated. Both men stood in puzzled silence as the king continued. "You see, on the day that the warlock was defeated, I ordered him beheaded and both the head and body burned to ashes. I then sent for loyal men of secrecy to dispose of the ashes." Two men answered the call, a boatman and a traveler. The boatman was ordered to sail further out to sea than he'd ever been and scatter the ashes in the ocean. However, he was not told that he only had the ashes of the head. Likewise, the traveler was ordered to travel far across the land, almost to the other ocean, and bury the ashes deep underground in an unknown location. He was not told that he only had the ashes of the body. Both men were told to never speak of the details of this task to anyone. This was done to ensure that the warlock would never rise again to oppress the kingdom. "Yes, I did send two of my most loyal guards to accompany you all to observe and report back to me that it was done according to my instructions." In turn, both men earned the king's trust and were rewarded handsomely with money and estates that were to remain in their families forever. "So, you see, both of you men spoke truthfully." The boatman and the traveler looked over at each other with both respect and contrite. They bowed and thanked the king for resolving the matter and attempted to leave. "But," the king continued, "both of you also understood the importance of the task, and the king warned you that it would become the stories of legends. And do you remember what you swore to the king upon accepting these tasks?" The traveler and boatman answered in unison. "On my life you have my word, my lips are sealed." "So how is it that the two of you have come to openly discuss the details of the tasks in a tavern if you swore secrecy on your lives to the king?" Both men stood ashamed in silence. "Now both your word and honor will be upheld," said the king. "You two have agreed that whomever the king sides with, the other man must be put to death. I have sided with both of you, for you both were telling the truth. Therefore, the other man, meaning each one of you, shall be put to death. This is a fate that could have been avoided had you kept your word to the king. The king's word is bond, and the king must set an example." The king had the men beheaded and burned to ashes. Their bodies were taken far away on land and buried deep underground, while their heads were scattered out in the farthest reaches of the sea. The townsfolk never heard from the debating men again, and the whereabouts of the warlock's body continued to be a legend. Don't Let the Behemoth Bite, by Alexander Brotherton.
Thus ends the story of Child Meets Monster. And so begins the adventure of the most unlikely friendship.
Mom closes the book she was reading. "That's my favorite story." Lottie yawns while tucked into bed.
Is that why you want me to read it to you every night?
Mom teases from a bedside chair. Lottie smiles. "Yeah."
Even though we have plenty of other books to read.
Mom points to the bookshelf. "Yeah."
Most of which you've never even given a chance?
Says Mom through her teeth, pretending to be angry. "Yeah." Lottie giggles. Mom pivots to playful. "It must really be your favorite then." "It is." Mom feigns reluctant annoyance. "Then, I guess I'll keep reading it to you." "Thanks, Mom, I love you." Mom basks in the words of her daughter for a few moments before professing, "I love you too, good night, baby girl." With a twist and a couple clicks, Mom turns off Lottie's bedside lamp, a kiss on the forehead, and Mom turns to leave but is stopped by a "Mama." Mom turns around. "Yeah, sweetie. Can I sleep with you tonight?" Mom returns to Lottie's bedside. "Lottie, we talked about this. You promised to at least try to sleep alone tonight." Lottie protests. "I know, but I read your story. You have your warm Pineapple House nightlight plugged in, and your unicorn to keep you company." "Lady Rainicorn," Lottie corrects Mom. Mom apologizes to the plushie. "Sorry, Lady Rainicorn." Mom redirects her attention back to Lottie. "What is it? What else could you need?" "I miss Buster," whines Lottie softly. Mom tears up. "I'm sorry, I miss Buster too, he was the best. But cars are the worst, and Buster's in heaven now." "I know," whimpers Lottie, disappointed. "We could get a new dog," Mom suggests softly. "I don't want a new dog." "You know what, you're right, I don't want a new dog either." "What about a cat though? Do cats keep monsters away?" queries Lottie as seriously as her little voice could allow. "Honey, there's no such thing as monsters. Only animals that are scared or hungry. Some animals may look really scary, but they're more afraid of you than you are of them." Like lions and tigers and bears, proposes Lottie. Oh my, you're smart, exactly like that and a bunch more. There are a lot of critters out there, I haven't even seen half of them, exclaims a proud mom. Is our house haunted? Why would you think that? I just heard something bad haunts our house. And that's why we need crosses, silver crosses. Who told you that? Lottie thinks about telling mom the truth but decides against it. I can't remember. You know you can tell me anything, right? Yeah. Good, you don't have to worry about anything bad in our house is safe. The only thing that can truly be bad is a person. And it's just you and me, baby girl, so there's no reason to fret. Is Rick a bad person? You don't have to worry about Rick, he's not coming over anymore. Because he's bad? Because I told him so. You're tough, Mom. You're tough too, Lottie, I love you. I love you too, Mom. Now close your eyes, relax, and before you know it tomorrow will be today, then we can talk more about that kitty. Mom kisses Lottie on her forehead and before moving away whispers, "Sweet dreams, baby girl." Mom's kiss causes Lottie to shut her eyes. Lottie leaves them shut. Growls coming from underneath Lottie's bed wake her in the middle of the night. Two sets of vocal cords are narrowing in perfect unison. One is lower pitched than the other, but both are eerie. At first, Lottie worried about what was under her bed. Then, Lottie remembers what Mom told her about animals. Now, she's curious. Carefully and slowly, Lottie dangles her head off the side of her bed. She grips her tucked sheets so she doesn't fall off. Like a spy, Lottie lowers herself to get an upside-down peek of what's under the bed. A small, breathing silhouette is all Lottie can make out. The shadow notices Lottie and backs away swiftly, causing Lottie a scare. With all of her tiny strength, she's barely able to pull herself back on top of her bed. Lottie lays on her back, breathing deeply as her little heart beats a mile a minute. Slight vibrations are felt and heard by Lottie, the source clearly being from under her bed. This gives Lottie an idea. Silently as possible, Lottie tiptoes out of her bedroom and closes the door behind her. Within a couple of minutes, Lottie returns to her room with a bowl of dog food. Lottie softly sets the bowl on the floor next to her bed. She quickly jumps back into the comfort of her covers to observe what happens next. She doesn't have to wait long. Lottie whispers, "Go ahead you two, it's all yours. Sorry, I only have one bow." A pair of vantablack tentacles grab the doggy dish and reels the food back to the creatures. Before Lottie knows it, the bowl is back where she placed it. Only this time it's empty. Again, Lottie feels the thrum of the beasts below her. Lottie marvels. "Wow, you two are really hungry." The beings from beneath confirm this with a harmonious deep vibration that speaks. "Thulu. I'll take that as a yes." 2 bowls later, Lottie sat crisscross applesauce on the floor across the room from her bed, waiting. Clicking her tongue on the top of her mouth with her hands out, hoping whatever is in the shadows would finally reveal themselves. They don't. The next morning Mom finds Lottie curled up with her blankie on her bedroom floor. "Why did you get dog food last night?" Mom wonders aloud. Lottie ponders what Mom would or wouldn't believe, so Lottie fibs. "A cat meowed at my window last night. It was hungry, so I let it in and fed it. Well, where is it now? It wanted back out." Night 2, the beings eat one less dish of food and one shows his butt. After eating, one of them pushed out the back half of his body to show off his baby butt cheeks. He has a tail with a dark red stinger on the end, porcupine-like spikes on his spine, and 4 spider-like legs. From what Lottie could tell, the night creatures were vantablack everywhere except for their merlet-colored stripe running from their spine to their stinger, butthole, and genitals. The things laugh and vibrate as one of them shakes their booty. On night 3, only a dish of food is eaten. Then, one of the beings reveals itself to Lottie. The warm pineapple house night light highlights his hairless skin, 4 spider-like legs beneath a human-like torso, and head. Luckily, Lottie finds spiders cute. What Lottie doesn't find cute are the creature's 4 arms. The top arms have red-tipped claws, and the bottom set have red pincers. Nothing Lottie couldn't get used to, though. She found scorpions fascinating. Lottie smiles at him. He smiles wide at Lottie in return, revealing a mouth full of sharp carnivore teeth with tentacle mandibles. Lottie whispers, "Nice teeth, how do you keep them so white?" He approaches Lottie with his pink, fleshy, appendage-covered nose leading the way. Lottie holds out her hand for him to sniff. Their first physical contact is Lottie's hand being examined by the 22 dangling sensors hanging around its snoot. "Your nose is so different," remarks Lottie. still somehow enamored with this creature with reptile-like holes for ears. She feels an exhilarating connection when Lottie finally gets the chance to look into the creature's black eyes held within sunken sockets and no eyelids. A bond unlike she's ever experienced or ever will. He thrums with 2 sets of vocal cords. Thulu. He spins around once for Lottie. There's only one creature. And it turns out he has 6 eyes, 2 eyes in the front, 2 in the back, and 1 on each side. He sounds scary, however, Lottie finds him very endearing. Even though petting him isn't fun with his skin being so clammy. He likes playing with balls, scratching stuff, vibrates when he sees Lottie, has a floppy dog tongue, and still prefers sleeping under the bed instead of on top of it. Lottie names the night creature Kitty. Lottie sleeps soundly with her new pet kitty under her bed on night 4, until a man yelling and banging on the front door rattles her awake. Shaking and scared, Lottie runs to find Mom. Mom is standing behind the front door when Lottie enters the living room. Through a window, Lottie spots the disturbance, a drunk off his ass, cross-wearing Rick. The same old Rick. The bandages covering his left forearm were new though. Just let me come home already, fuck. How many times do I have to say sorry, baby? Goddamn. It was only an accident anyways. In those situations you've gotta show who's boss. And I'm boss, baby, I'm boss. Enthusiastically slurs Rick. This is why I got the restraining order. Mom snaps back. What restraining order? I haven't seen any restraining order. Lies Rick. Please, I only want you to leave us alone. Begs Mom. Persistence is the key to love. I love you. I'll follow you to the end of the earth. So declares Rick, a bad person. Lottie shudders. What's happening, Mom? Mom acknowledges little Lottie. Everything is going to be fine, baby. Let's go to my room until the police get here. Until the what get here? Are you serious? Answer me, bitch. Squawks Rick. Mom picks up Lottie. Rick blames Mom. All right, you made me do this. Mom carries Lottie to her bedroom. Boom. Rick kicks the front door open. Mom locks the door behind her after making it to her room. She sits Lottie on her bed, freeing herself to lean against the door, trying desperately, while crying, to keep this door shut and her daughter safe. Rick bangs on the bedroom door. Mom begs, please get out, you're scaring Lottie. Please stop, Rick, begs Lottie. Rick apologizes. Oh, I'm sorry, babe. I didn't realize you had Lottie with you. That's my bad. I'm sorry. You hear me, Lottie? I'm sorry. Okay, I would never hurt you or your mother, babe. Just let me in so I can see you, please. That's all I want and then I'll go. Lottie's plea fails to get through to Rick. Good thing he's not the only one listening. Mom confesses through tears. I can't. Yeah, you can and you will. Rick spits. SHICK. Rick feels a sharp stabbing pain on the back of his neck. Immediately, he reaches back to feel the stab wound with his hand. Rick exclaims, "Oh, what the hell was that?" Rick looks around perplexed to see nothing but the hallway covered by shadows. Rick is shook. Babe, did you get a scorpion or something? Kitty bellows down at Rick from the ceiling, shaking the house with fathomless reverberations the entire neighborhood would recall, for years to come, that thunderous, ominous horn that woke them. Rick looks up to see what could do such a thing. The ceiling is empty. Multiple legs crawl up Rick's left leg. Kitty's claws and pincers rip the dressings off of Rick's wounds to reveal punctures from a bite. Rick uses his left hand to grasp the skin lacerating Kitty by his torso. Rick cocks back his right fist. Instantly, Kitty suctions onto Rick's face with his tentacle mandibles. Rick uses all of his strength and limbs to pry Kitty off. Unfortunately, the suction cups took some of his face and neck tissues with it. Kitty falls to the ground with the spikes on his back sticking up. Rick attempts to kick Kitty while it runs through a shadow on the wall, but a few of Rick's toes break instead. He collapses to the ground, holding his foot in pain. God damn it, Rick yells. Rick remembers the silver cross on his chest. He rips it off and plans to shove it down Kitty's throat. Kitty growls with both vocal cord sets to get Rick's attention. Rick whips around to see Kitty next to a giant man, who had to crouch to fit into the house. Rick drops his silver cross. Dad, cries Rick. Son. Rick's dad replies and reaches out with his palm open. How did you get so big? You're a behemoth. I didn't get big, you're just small. What? Rick looks around the house confused. He's shrunk down to the size of an action figure. Rick's dad picks his son up using only an index finger and a thumb. Tiny Rick screams as his father carries him through a shadow. Thus ends the story of Child Meets Monster. And so begins the adventure of the most unlikely friendship. Mom closes the book she was reading from. I love you, Mom, sweet dreams. I love you too, baby girl, good night. Mom whispers lovingly. Lottie clears her throat, forgetting someone. No, I was getting to him, good night, Kitty. Thulu, says Kitty, vibrating at the foot of Lottie's bed. Mom shuts off the lights and leaves the room. Lottie closes her eyes and falls asleep gently. Kitty has no eyelids, so he has to roll all 6 of his eyes into the back of his head in order to sleep.